Welcome to the Tom and Barry Show, the college football marketplace that talks a lot about current, but we sure treasure the past. I went to a Big Eight football game on Saturday night. It was a blast. Turns out it was SEC versus Big Ten, but that's beside the point. I'm berry-tramel with the Tulsa World. He's Tom-shatel with the Omaha World Herald. And welcome to the Tom and Barry Show. And yeah, Tom, I've seen a lot of games on Owen Field that looked a lot like what I saw Saturday night when the Sooners beat Michigan 24-13. I just hadn't seen them in a decade or two.
It just speaks to the world we live in. Quarterbacks have always been important, but the fact that you can go out and get one in the portal and just plug him into a team um, that is already got other pieces to it, got a defense. You can get really good in a hurry, and now I see why some folks in the SEC were picking Oklahoma high because they like the quarterback. So. Um, I don't know. It felt to me a little bit like maybe Venables is kind of turning the corner a little bit.
Well, it was a monumental win, I will say that, because Michigan's good now. Their offense is still a little bit old-fashioned. I think Bryce Underwood's going to be a really good quarterback, but he was hamstrung a lot. Frankly, I thought the teams were really similar, except at the quarterback position. That Bryce Underwood's going to get a lot better, probably be a star, but John Mateer already is a star. So I thought it was a good one to win, and it certainly was great for Venables to get one of his big games over the hump. He's got about 6 or 7 this year. This crazy week in the Associated Press poll, Tom, the Sooners have 8 SEC games. All 8 are in the AP top 25 this week. So um,
Yeah,
doesn't get any.
I don't know what's going on in Austin with Arch Manning. It seemed like Sark had kind of a weird answer to a question about Arch, and I don't know if there's something there or what's going on there, but I certainly like the way OU is trending, and that Texas is still really good, but that game in Dallas, yeah, might be a lot more fun than I thought. But yeah, Michigan comes to Lincoln next week. It's a big one for if you thought it was big for the Sooners, it's even bigger for the Huskers. That's a league game. They need to. Matt Rule needs to show he can be a factor in that league, and maybe they're hitting Bryce Underwood at the right time. Saw a quote yesterday from Sharon Moore saying they're probably do more with him later in the season as far as running the ball. So um, you don't want to get him hurt, but so maybe they're catching him at home at the right time next week. Maybe not, but yeah, that was a good one for the Sooners, and their stock in the SEC will be going up.
Yeah, yeah. Tom, uh, Michigan only ran Underwood 3 times, and a guy
Yeah,
like that, he's got to run more. I mean, Mateer ran 19 times. He was
yeah,
the
they're
best. He's the
they're
best.
they're easing him in, and it'll be interesting because when they come here, Moore is gonna be out. He won't be at the game. He's suspended those 2 games. So um, I don't know what the interim coach will do with him, but I'm sure they're under orders. Some like they're under orders to they've got bigger fish to fry down the road. I'm sure they Ohio State and some of the other ones they play, but we'll see. But yeah, Sooners quarterback. We go back to the year 2000, both of us. Remember, a kid named Heupel, JUCO kid shows up, and next thing you know, there's magic. So we'll see.
Yeah, it was. You got to have a quarterback. There's not any question about that. This week, Oklahoma goes to Temple. Not really much of a game should be. Meanwhile, Houston Christian comes to Nebraska. Houston Christian shouldn't be much of a game. But as I was telling you off air, Tom, they threw me a curveball a few years ago when Houston Baptist changed their name to Houston Christian. I guess they're trying to cast a wider net, but um, I didn't get the memo, missed it when they changed the name. So I spent about 6 months of a college football offseason trying to figure out who's this Houston Christian? Where'd they come from? Why are people scheduling Houston Christian? Now, Houston Baptist, I knew all about. However, um, Houston Christian does have a prominent place in Oklahoma lore, maybe not Nebraska lore. We can talk
Yeah,
about that too. But here's the OU connection with Houston Christian. Ben Arbuckle, the Oklahoma offensive coordinator, he graduates from West Texas A&M about 7 years ago, not very long ago. 7 years ago, takes a oil and gas job in Houston, sitting at a desk working. He doesn't like it. He has a connection back home in the Texas Panhandle who he calls him and says, I think I want to coach football. I miss football. I don't like these desk jobs. And the guy said, well, here's the name of Zach Kitley. He's a good West Texas guy. He's coordinator over there at Houston Baptist. Give him a call. Within a day or two, he gets hired as a volunteer coach, zero pay, quits his job immediately, goes to work at Houston Baptist slash Christian, follows Kitley around, and now is the offensive coordinator at Oklahoma. So the Sooner Nation thanks the good people at Houston Christian for launching Ben Arbuckle's career.
I love college football.
Yeah. Of course, you Huskers have a guy with a lot of Houston ties. Offensive coordinator Dana Holgerson loved Houston. He'd go there
Yeah,
when he was the head coach at West Virginia. He kept an apartment in Houston. He'd go down there so much. Ended up being the Houston University coach till they fired
yeah,
him, about 18 months ago. But yeah, Dana loves himself some Houston. People taking to Dana pretty good. Are they fired up about Holgerson?
yeah. He's kind of bulletproof. He's got this reputation as a legend and one of the best play callers in college football. And he's the first offensive coordinator play caller at Nebraska I've ever seen who doesn't get criticized. I mean that includes Osborne. People used to criticize Osborne. Yeah, there he goes again, running up the middle. You know, and
Only made 7 yards that time.
well, yeah, so. Yeah, Dana was asked today. We get the coordinators every Tuesday, and asked him if he had any connections with Houston Christian, and kind of he was kind of brief. He just kind of said no, and he sounded kind of annoyed by it. So I don't know if there's any history there or what, but yeah, you'd like Dana. Now Dana's a world traveler. He every summer now he took a year off of coaching and decided that he saw what coaching was doing with Mike Leach's health, and because he was an absolute workaholic. And so Dana's a traveler now. He goes to Europe every summer. He's going to Greece and Turkey and Italy, and he's uh he's been to Paris. He's going all over the place. So
For him.
yeah, he's something else. I think his family's got kids still in Texas, but last time I checked, he lived in a hotel here. I don't know what that means, but I think I don't know if he wants to be a head coach again or not. I think he likes being a play caller, and he likes being a high paid play caller. So, um, but he's got some good pieces to work with. Nebraska scored 68 last week. They could have had 80. They had a couple times to the 1 yard line they didn't get in. But what I found interesting about Nebraska last week, Barry, was halftime. They're up 33-0 over Akron's hapless. They can't do anything, and Matt Rule chewed out his team at halftime. He just blasted them for not having a more of a killer instinct. Basically, Akron tried to drive at the end to get a field goal, and he goes, that should piss you guys off. They can beat you, which they didn't. But I love the watching Rule build this thing, and he's trying to do what you know, Switzer hang half 100 on him is because you can. And Osborne didn't have a slogan, but he'd go for two whenever he could. I mean,
Yeah.
he you know 2 point conversion just to keep it going. He had no problem running up the score either. So, um, but that's kind of what you have to have when you're playing a team like that. So, well, a lot of people were I feeling good about that win, even though Akron, just the way they did it. Second and third teamers got to play for the first time, and we haven't done that in 10 years.
Right.
They have so many close games to play the backup. So, um, yeah, it was a good deal. I'm sure this week will be the same thing.
Well, I've told you before, I'm very high on Matt Rule. And I'm high on Holgerson as a coordinator. You know, he came to
Yeah,
Oklahoma State in 2010, hired away from Houston, and he transformed the Gundy offense and really elevated the Cowboys in his 10 or 11 months. And then he got that West Virginia job that was supposed to be a coach in waiting, turned out to be head coach now. And yeah, I went down to Houston. It must have been 3 years ago now, 2 or 3 years ago, right before they were coming into the Big 12. I was going to do a project on Houston coming to the Big 12. I was all fired up because Kelvin Sampson's down there. I know Kelvin.
oh
Dana
yeah,
Alderson's a football coach. I know Dana. Get down there. And Dana was off on one of those trips you were talking about. He was in Mexico, and they said, we'll have to set you up by phone with him. But I recommend that getting away for those coaches. Uh,
yeah,
Speaking of coaches who need to get away, Tom, we had a little bit of a wild Saturday in college football. I'm going to ask you a question. Who had
yeah.
the worst Saturday among these four coaches? Billy Napier at Florida, whose Gators lost to South Florida. Mike Gundy, whose Cowboys lost to Oregon 69-3. Got beat by 66 points. That's why they call it Route 66. Kenny Dillingham, Arizona State, Big 12 defending champion, ranked number 11 in the country, loses at Mississippi State, the worst team in the SEC, or Chris Kleiman at Kansas State, who lost to a team that lost to Tarleton State. Turns out it's Army. I know Army can get anybody on the right day. Four guys with terrible Saturdays. Who had the worst Saturday?
Well, they all had a bad day on different levels, but I'm going to go with job security and say Napier. I mean, he was already on the ropes. I think that was the final nail. I don't think, unless he beats Georgia at the cocktail party and Florida State and goes to the playoff, and I think he probably literally has to go to the playoff to save it now. Um, but I don't know who Scott Strickland, the AD, has in mind. Is there anybody lined up ready to go? I mean, they probably have to do it anyway, but and it's a good job. But now good jobs are defined by NIL and revenue sharing. But you know,
I tell you one guy that was mentioned before the game and was Alex Golish, the South Florida coach, came from
well,
Tennessee, um, and then he
I
goes
think
and beats
he's in.
Florida. I don't know if they would go over to Tampa and hire him, but he's been prominently mentioned.
I think I think he's an Ohio State kind of
I
guy.
think that's right.
Maybe
I
I don't know
think
if anything's going to open up in the Big Ten, but South Florida. Everybody talks about North Carolina and Florida State and Clemson and expansion. One more round of SEC Big Ten, and hell, I think if Big Ten wants to go to Florida, they should get South Florida. I think that would be intriguing. I don't know how big their stadium is. Do they play at
yeah, they
Tampa Bay
they
Park
play
Stadium?
at yeah, they don't have their own stadium yet, I don't think. They play at
Yeah,
Raymond James. Yeah.
they're one of those AAU deal, AAU schools. I don't know what that matters anymore, but I'd be intrigued by that. Anyway, well, let's go down the list. Dillingham, yeah, he talked big, but his big talk is still on the table about winning the Big 12 and He can still do all that stuff, but yeah, that what happens to Start Vegas is not going to stay in Start Vegas. So um, Kleiman is solid. K-State, people love him. That's just that Irish, the curse of the Irish. I
Yeah.
told you,
You
don't
lose in
lose that
Dublin.
game.
Yeah.
And they lost a running back. That was the big curse. I don't know if he's back yet or not.
No,
And then
he's not. He didn't.
who is number two on your list?
Gundy, Mike Gundy.
You're going to have to help me out on that. Gundy's he is Oklahoma State. Um, I don't know what the OSU fans have in mind or what kind of mood they're in with Gundy. If they had enough, is he there until he wants to leave? Um, but yeah, that's not good. And they haven't been trending well lately anyway. They didn't have a good year last year. Um, he's, if they were ever going to make a move, um, I think he's going to have a good Big 12 run. And I don't know what kind of team they have.
Yeah, they don't look very good. His last two FBS games, Division 1A games, Cowboys have been beaten 121-3. So
He's
they
got
they
he's
become
got our Omaha kid at quarterback. I hope
yeah. Oh, you
I
got
hope that works out because he's a great kid.
yeah. It's Zane Flores. Everybody was high on him. He looked totally lost, which was it's basically his first real
Yeah.
game. And completely overmatched. The Oregon defense just swallowed them up.
Are,
So it
are
was a
we?
no-win situation for Zane Flores, but it's a
You think
tough situation.
you think Oregon's underrated as a national title contender? I mean, nobody's talking about Oregon.
Yeah, I do think I think they're capable. Yes, I think um, it doesn't look like, and maybe it didn't look like this last year, but it doesn't look like we have a super team, right? I mean,
Right.
whether it's Ohio State, Georgia, certainly not Penn State, whoever, LSU, none of those, nobody just looks like, hey, going to be really hard to beat. And so I think Oregon deserves to be in the upper, whatever, ever how deep you go with the upper level of teams. I think Oregon deserves to be there. Uh,
I'm
they got a
I'm
great coach.
still.
I think,
I don't want to write off Alabama as a thing to watch. But I'm looking at Texas right now and wondering, okay, what kind of deal is this? Are they far and above number one? Are they that kind of team, or I'm you know kind of looking down the road of that game in Dallas. I think that's going to be one of those games that's going to change somebody's season.
yeah, I watched first quarter and a half of Texas. It got up 28-0. I turned it, but the Longhorns didn't look good out of the gate again, even
Yeah,
against San Jose State. Arch didn't look good.
yeah, something's going on there.
Something is not kosher. And here's the deal, when we started projecting to the 2025 season, everybody was flying the Arch Manning flag. And, if you're in Oklahoma or even some other SEC schools, you think, man, Texas has a good roster. And now they got this generational quarterback who can't miss. What are we going to do with this team? But now, you'd say Oklahoma's got the better quarterback going into that
Yeah,
game. So, and that could be the case when some other games come down the pike. So I think Texas is a little, when you look nationally, the difference between the SEC and the Big Ten right now, in my opinion, is that the big dogs of the SEC have not looked as good as you thought they might. Well, the Big Ten's top dogs have sort of stayed steady in what you think. Texas is not as good as we thought. Georgia hasn't played anybody, but hasn't been overly impressive. LSU looked great or really good, and going to Clemson and winning was fabulous. But this past Saturday, Clemson struggles to beat Troy, and LSU just sort of monkeys around with Louisiana Tech. So, and Alabama looks like a shadow of their former self. So the SEC looks a lot more wide open. The Big Ten still seems to have those top three teams at the top sort of a pretty good gulf between the rest of the field.
Yep.
So I don't. Uh, the biggest loser, the biggest loser. I think you're right, Billy Napier. Second biggest loser, Brett Yormark. I mean, for his marquee team, the highest ranked team he's got, the playoff team that everybody fell in love with last year, for them to go to Mississippi State and lose was just a mortal blow to the Big 12. Um, unless Utah, some combination of Utah, Brigham Young, uh, Iowa State, maybe TCU, unless two of those teams drop off great years, 11-1 type years, I don't see the Big 12 getting a second team into the playoff again, which would be
Yeah.
very bad for the Big 12. So that
Yeah.
that's a
I,
bad loss for Arizona State and the Big 12.
yeah. I saw Yormark recently added like a all-state endorsement or all-state deal with the Big 12. Now they can be on with the Mayhem guy, I guess, and maybe the Big 12's new nickname will be Mayhem. But you know, all that stuff that Yormark does is great, but it still comes down to what they're doing on the field, and are those coaches getting the right guys out of the portal? Are the retaining recruits? And the Big 12 was built itself as the big quarterback league going into this year. So I mean, we'll see. I agree about TCU. I just Baylor to me is kind of there. I don't know how good they are. They they beat somebody good last week.
SMU beat SMU,
Yeah.
double overtime
So
game. It was a
yeah,
crazy week. Tom, the two marquee games, the Big 12 wins, Iowa State over Iowa,
yeah,
Baylor over SMU, and it was still a bad week for the conference, thanks to
yeah.
Arizona State and K-State.
And nobody's talking about Utah because Utah is always going to be Utah, and that's a tough team to play, tough team to beat. Um, but they don't have that big marquee name. Iowa State's uh, a fun team to watch, and I think they're going to be. But who's going to to get that second playoff team? You're going to need a big non-conference win. You're going to need some kind of strength of schedule thing to get that team over the hump. I don't know that they have that right now.
Did you enjoy Iowa State, Iowa? I enjoyed the heck out of that game.
Yeah, it was.
It was a
One of those
throwback.
games. It looked like Iowa State was. Iowa kind of sucked them into their game. A lot of defense and low scoring, but yeah, I mean that game never disappoints. It's always especially now that Iowa State's uh, I got their program up. Yeah, it's fun. Best part for me, and I was telling my Cyclone friends this, is they got the colors back. They didn't wear them trying to be
Yeah,
black.
that's
It's
right.
white, and this Matt Campbell's favorite color. I mean, they got the old cardinal and gold. Um, you know,
Did look
I
good. Look
was
good.
telling Iowa State. People say, well, why are they the Cyclones, but they have this mascot that's a bird? And well, because they are the Cardinals. That's why they're cardinal and gold. But way back in the day, the 20s or the 30s or something, they went and into Chicago and beat the hell out of Northwestern or somebody. And the Chicago Tribune writer said the Iowa State came through Chicago like a cyclone. And that name caught on. So
The power of the press.
I'm giving you a little bit of Big Eight Iowa State trivia there. But yeah, I like them. Question is, Utah and Iowa State say I don't think they play. Um, if they say they go into the Big 12 title game undefeated, can the other one get in? I don't know.
Yeah, I think I think if somebody's 11-1 after the regular season, they're in. If they're not in. I think it's
Yeah.
pretty clear cut in the Big 12. the committee has shown us their cards. They like they go by record. They don't care about the other stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's going to take 11 wins in the regular season for Big 12 to get a second team in. Um, so we shall see. Well, Tom, this has been fun. Um,
Yep.
we got some big games this week: Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, LSU, and the SEC. Big Ten's got some interesting non-conference games. When you look at or the North at least, Texas A&M, Notre Dame, Wisconsin, Alabama. That'd been a heck of a game in 2017. But what
I'm
happened
not so sure about now.
with the
We'll
Badgers?
see.
What's going on with
Uh,
the Badgers?
you know, what Napier beats LSU? I'm not saying that's going to happen. It probably won't, but I mean, wouldn't that'd be the kind of crazy thing he might do right now?
Yeah, and if he
And
did that, you'd almost have to put him back at at neutral because that game's in
just to
Baton
make those
Rouge.
Gator fans mad.
Yeah, he's not supposed to win that game. So, but tell me, what's going on with the Badgers? What's wrong with Wisconsin?
Wisconsin,
I thought I was a good hire with Luke Fickle, and it hadn't worked at all.
yeah, they it's a move that harkened back Nebraska fans to the Frank Solich, Bill Callahan transition, where Steve Peterson, the AD, said, I'm gonna modernize Nebraska football, and we're gonna get an NFL coach in here. We're gonna throw it around. We're gonna boost recruiting." And that's kind of what Wisconsin did. They Barry Alvarez, the godfather of Wisconsin football, wanted his guy Jim Leonard, defensive coordinator, to take over, and he got into a bowl game as an interim coach, and the AD there, who's a former Badger offensive lineman, Chris McIntosh said, I'm gonna, yeah, but I agree. When they hired Fickle, we thought, well, they really, they made Barry mad, but they got the right guy, and he's tried to turn it into a passing program, and he went away from their smash mouth, and they haven't been able to get players because they don't pay. Their NIL is not great. They're
Really?
one of these, we're developmental. We don't have to do that. Well, yeah, you do. If you want to win, you got to pay. So they went away from that and have kind of lost their mojo as and they don't have the players. They've always had good running backs and quarterbacks who could beat you, and they've gone away from. They've changed offensive coordinators now a couple of times, trying to go back to more power, but um, yeah, they're you know Alabama. I don't know what's going on with that deal, but they'll certainly be hard to beat down there. So, and Wisconsin's schedule is the hardest in the country. Not even any close. They, I think they play Michigan, Penn State, and Ohio State. I mean, it's ridiculously crazy. Or maybe they play Oregon. I think they have to go to Oregon. So, um, anyway, um, yeah, the Big Ten is like I've said, the Big Ten is identity is no longer 3 yards in a cloud of dust, man. It's you got Oregon, you got USC coming in. They do it differently. Um, it's and some teams in the old Big Ten legacy schools are starting to throw it a little bit. I mean, it's interesting, but yeah, Wisconsin's in danger of kind of falling into the you know down the cracks of the league. There's, whatever happened to Wisconsin. So that's a weird league. I mean, Washington's pretty good. UCLA is 0 for 2. What in the heck's going on there? They got the wrong quarterback, I guess. I don't know. But um, well, I don't know much about Penn State. And but I think I agree with you about Oregon and Ohio State being at the top. We'll see about Penn State, later on this year. But interesting start. We'll have more to talk about next week.
It'll be fun. Um, we've got Oklahoma next week playing Auburn. Nebraska's got Michigan. So
Yeah,
fun stuff
it'll be
on the
good.
horizon. That's going to do it for us this week. Go find us at with the Omaha World Herald, the Tulsa World, omaha.com, tulsaworld.com, Tom and Barry Show. We'll be back next week.